that's for losers, man. I don't get involved in that stuff. But
Angel Rashad Milligan rolling out.
That's a good question.
Brandon,
We can't ask Rashad questions.
Hey, Rashad.
Oh, yo, what is up, party people? Happy basketball season. This basketball season, everybody's fully locked in on basketball as we are in spring training, with baseball and football's over with. So everybody's locked into basketball right now, and there's a lot of basketball going on. One thing I do want to shout out though, before I get into everything else, as you guys see in the title, Zion Williamson, bro. Zion Williamson has been pretty consistent since he ever came back last month from his hamstring injury that kept him out for pretty much over the first quarter of the season. And he's been pretty consistent every single time. He's been on minutes restriction. I have to look up how many minutes he played tonight. But he's been on minutes restriction, and he still had he had 31 minutes tonight. This is like the first time I've seen him over 30 minutes in a while. And so I guess that the minutes restriction is kind of being lifted off of him. But I'm saying all this to say Zion had, when he did have minutes restriction, he played 28 minutes and he had 40 points in the game. And he's doing this on a consistent basis. It's like 23 points in 3 quarters, and he ends up with 25, 26 points. 11 rebounds, 7 rebounds. He fills out the stat sheet. Tonight he had his first ever triple-double, and the Pelicans led the Pelicans to their 3rd consecutive win. They didn't have any back-to-back, so he's been playing all of the games and stuff like that. And no one's talking about it. He's in the best shape of his career. He's at the reported lightest weight of his career in the NBA. Right now he's lost 20 pounds since training camp and preseason and media day. And no one's discussing it. People, when you still talk about Zion, the thing that went viral yesterday was his new tattoo. A tattoo that he had on his stomach that resembled or represented something from Naruto. It was a Naruto reference, and it went viral. That was the thing that people were talking about most about Zion Williamson this week. Zion has led the team to 3 consecutive wins once again. I believe 2 over the San Antonio Spurs, and then 1 tonight against the Phoenix Suns. Both of those teams, the Spurs and the Suns, are both playing for an opportunity to get into the play-in. For the Spurs, of course, as a younger team, they want that taste of the playoffs or the postseason as kind of soon as possible for Wemby, so he doesn't get into losing, and he gets a little discouraged there in San Antonio. Phoenix, of course, you've seen what Kevin Durant has said. Reportedly, they're going to trade Kevin Durant in the offseason. But the reason why he didn't want to get traded at the trade deadline is because he said he came to Phoenix with the plan, and he wanted to see that plan through. He wanted to see, the team at least finish the season out with the group of guys that they brought in particular, the big 3 of Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and himself, which hasn't worked out. But yes, I say all of this to say Zion's playing really good basketball. And people are still making just jokes about the things that he likes, Naruto, anime, cartoons, things of that sort. His kind of background where he had a couple women kind of come out publicly speaking about him and stuff a few years ago. And then, obviously his weight issues and stuff, the stipulations that they put in this contract of you don't get your fully guaranteed contract if you're above a certain weight or your body fat percentage is above a certain, kind of limit and stuff like that. All of these things have kind of overshadowed Zion's actual story. And I feel I'm saying I have to take some accountability in that as well as a member of the media and reporting on some of these, some of the jokes that Shannon Sharp was making about him. He said the only thing that Zion can deliver you is no. He said I bet he's on time for the DoorDash order. He said that, and I wrote about the jokes that people were making about Zion and stuff. But I mean, at the same time, I was also reporting and talking about Zion being just an amazing player and kind of a once in a generational athlete. And I feel like more people kind of need to continue to tell that story. A lot of times with these sports shows and stuff like that, where you talk about Gil's Arena or you talk about Who else? Who else is? It's another one of those type of shows. But like shows in that Chad Ochocinco show and everything like that. A lot of those guys, they kind of like say, "Oh yeah, he's great when he's on the court, but he's never on the court." And it's like they kind of like move past it and brush past it and just speak on this general take that they've had on someone for since they've been in the league. And I think that's not only unfair, but it's kind of just like un it's irresponsible. It's irresponsible as a media member because now Zion has this thing on his name, and he's gonna have to spend, in the league, it takes like twice as long to get rid of a narrative on you. Like I've seen that firsthand with James Harden and Trae Young now. But James Harden a few years ago with the defense thing, it was like James Harden doesn't play defense, this and that, or he doesn't give any effort defensively, this is that. And then James Harden started playing like relatively good defense. He started caring on that side of the floor, and no one would care. Like they still kept making the jokes. Oh, James Harden don't play defense. James Harden don't play defense. It's the same thing with Trae Young. Of people, I'm like, yo, Trae Young is doing some things that like not a lot of guards have done in NBA history, and no one's kind of giving him credit for it. Like he doesn't even make the All-Star team. Like if you suggest that he should make Team USA, people laugh at you. If you suggest that he's an all NBA caliber point guard, people kind of like, and then when you compare and you're like, Trae Young's better than XYZ point guard, some people are just like, I think Trae was good in 2021 when they went to the Eastern Conference Finals, but I'm not sure it was of late. And it's like, oh, you just admitted that you haven't watched the Hawks in the past. It's just very frustrating stuff when he's guy consistently in the top 5 for points and assists each and every single year, and people talk about efficiency and his field goal percentage and everything like that. Well, if you watch the games, a lot of times the joke is shooting to get to the foul line. Sometimes if he has nothing else going for the offense, if he doesn't see any options to pass the ball to, and the shot clock is running down and he's looking at what to do, he's going to draw a foul. And now that goes against you. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then you have what you have. But it is what it is, bro. It's just people not watching this stuff and just taking lazy narratives and kind of carrying it. And the problem that I have with it, as I made the argument for a bunch of times, is just like lazy narratives, like on a national scale for casual watchers. People won't even watch the game because they heard the narrative. Like, I do think a healthy narrative that is negative right now is the LaMelo Ball, can't lead a winning team, not winning basketball, from Lou Williams, when he said, you lose by 50 points, everybody in the NBA has a night like that. But the next night, you can't lose by 50 points. And that's what they did. They lost by 40 points, and then they lost by 20 points. It was the worst 3-game stretch, right, of losing in like the NBA in a long time, if not ever. They lost by like 131 points in the span of 3 games. And I think that was kind of a constructive, effective way of like, criticizing LaMelo and the Charlotte Hornets and their progression as a franchise, because those guys were supposed to be way further than what they are. This is a team that was a playoff team or a play-in team a few years ago with those guys like PJ Washington, who's no longer on the team, and different other guys. There were a team, I say all of this, that was on the up and up. And it seems like all that momentum just kind of stopped because, they traded PJ and then they got rid of Rozier. And I believe Gordon Hayward's no longer in the team. You know what I'm saying? It's like they moved on into a new era, and the new era just wasn't it. It wasn't it. And what they have now is just worse than what they had before. And, I'm saying, they're moving backwards. They're not progressing the way that we thought they were with LaMelo and the LaMelo era. But going back to the Zion thing, lazy narratives are just very bad, because lazy narratives for casuals stop watching you. They don't even check for you anymore because they just go along this lazy narrative that they heard on a national media platform with people who haven't even checked in and tapped in with the games and stuff like that. And it affects your money. It affects your all-star appearances and stuff like that, which goes back to money, because if you make all-star, if you make all NBA, you get bonuses. If you get to Team USA, you get more exposure on the international basketball market. You can get some more, endorsements or whatever the case might be. It's a lot of stuff that goes into this, but the bottom line is the bottom line. This affects your bottom line when people just throw false, lazy, or just outdated narratives on you. Zion Williamson had a 27-point triple-double against Kevin Durant. He guarded Kevin Durant. He plays point forward now. He's in the best shape of his career, and he's led the New Orleans Pelicans to a 3-game winning streak without Brandon Ingram, who they traded. Trey Murphy's playing at a all-star level this year. He wasn't an all-star because they're a losing team, but they don't have DeJounte Murray. CJ McCollum's kind of just kind of there. He's just kind of like a role player. Every now and again, he'll give you a big night. Like I remember he had a 40 ball a couple weeks ago, and then he had another 40 ball, in the past month. But overall, he just kind of blends in most nights. Trey Murphy is the only other guy that's actively, consistently showing up for the Pelicans in that lineup. And he's the only guy, period, on that team that's shown up all year for them. And even Trey Murphy got hurt for a little short share in the season earlier in the year. But I say all of this to say, like, Zion's carrying that team. And what he's doing should be talked about the way that, Lasur Thompson's being talked about, the way that the Thompson twins are being talked about, the way that Amin Thompson's talked about, the way that Evan Mobley and, a lot of these guys around the league, these young stars around the league are being talked about, and it's not. And it's because it's kind of like people just kind of wrote him off. Oh, Zion Williamson, the lazy fat guy that doesn't, you know what I'm saying? And they kind of just stop paying attention to him. I get it on one end because a lot of that stuff is self-inflicted. Like Zion comes back from the hamstring injury. He does the 360 dunk, and he doesn't play in the next game because it's the back-to-back. And then the game after that, the road trip to Philadelphia, he doesn't play, and the team announces they suspended him for a game because he missed the team playing, or he's late to the team playing, and he says, I'm sorry, Miss Benson and everybody in the organization for my lack of professionalism. I'll turn it around. Ever since then, he's turned it around, and he's turned it around more than he ever has. No one's talking about it. No one's giving him that credit. And I know people say, oh, it's your job. You're a professional. You're supposed to do it. But it's just like, I feel like if you spend so much time talking down on someone about when they're messing up and when they're not doing their job, I feel like when they are doing their job, you should kind of acknowledge that and be like, yo, this person's been doing their job. It's kind of like AD earlier this season when he was in LA, right? And he was playing every single game for the Lakers, and he was playing the best basketball of Anthony Davis' career. And people are just like, oh, street clothes. And it's like, no, like, give people that credit when they're doing what they need to do. And of course, he went to Dallas and did the same thing in the first game and then got hurt. And then the street clothes again. But it's just like, I don't know. Just give people that credit. Like, if you're going to crap on somebody when they're doing wrong, give them their credit when they're doing right. I just feel like that's fair. But, what is fair? It's a philosophical question, I suppose. Yeah. So that's all I wanted to say. I wanted to say shout out to Zion right there.
That's for losers, man. I don't get involved in that stuff, but
Angel Rashad Milligan rolling out.
That's a good question.
We can't ask Rashad questions.
Hey, Rashad.